Hi, how you doing? So we're going to be working on an amazing painting today. We're going to be painting this T-Rex at twilight when the sun is setting in the prehistoric sky. So get everything ready and I will see you in a moment. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome. We're painting an exciting, fun painting today. This one is called T-Rex Twilight. So it could mean a few things. It could mean like our T-Rex is kind of like hanging out and the sun is setting in a prehistoric world, or as some people have told me that they think it's maybe like the dino apocalypse. And that could be a possibility too, because again, the colors, there's a red sun, orange and yellow, there's like a dark green sky, but I like to think of it as a dino sunset. And of course, we have a really fabulous T-Rex here in this wonderful, like, barren landscape with a palm tree because it's very hot, because we know that dinos are reptiles, I think, and they like hot, dry climates. So we're going to be working on this. So what I need for you to do is get everything together. You have your paints. I have mine on a plate. You don't have to put yours on a plate. You may want to use a plate if you're going to mix some colors. Also, you have two paintbrushes. What you need to bring, oh, and also you have these things. You have a circular shape, and you have our, look how it looks almost like a cartoon here. And then when you design him and you make her like what you want it the dinosaur to be like, then they kind of come alive. The circle is going to be so that we can get a nice round glowing sun. You also have to have some paper towels, a glass with water. We will need some glue. I don't have this on the list, but you will need a pencil. So I think we should begin. I'm just going to pop this over here and show you another, let me put it over here maybe, another one that I've done. This one's a little bit different in that there's more than one palm tree, different brush strokes, but we're going to go through it. All right. Everybody can do whatever they like. I've had some people in some of my classes, totally disregard the T-Rex and make their own dinosaurs and their own landscape. It's up to you. The first thing we're going to do is grab a pencil, and we're going to choose a spot closer to the top left corner than in the middle, because we are going to put our T-Rex right here, and we want our T-Rex to be in the middle of the sun so that it will stand out against that orange background. So this is just a template. So that's all we're going to do with this. We're just going to take our pencil and we're going to go around and create that circle, and that's going to be where our sun is. Then we're going to work on our background. I'm going to turn this way because I am right-handed. And we're going to be painting from the top down to about here, just below your sun. We're going to be painting it all this color green. You have a couple greens in there. We're going to use a lighter one. You are going to avoid your sun because our sun is going to be a glowy yellow. So we have to be careful of our outlines. I'm going to start with the green and my wide brush. Now I'm going to go very fast because I am not trying to make this, moving my cup, I'm not trying to make this perfect. This is going to be a sky, and the sky is not perfect. There's always lights and darks in your sky. So that's what I'm doing. We're going to just go over our brush strokes with different brush strokes. It doesn't have to be a horizontal. It can be a curve. It can be a vertical. We're going to be painting over our green at this point in the painting later on. When it comes to my circle, I think the easiest way to do it without making a mistake is to just take a minute, not even a minute, 30 seconds, and paint a nice clear outline around our circle. That way, when we do our messy sky brush strokes, we don't have to worry about getting the yellow and the green mixed together. Okay, so yeah, so you see how I've just done like a really quick, not perfect outline? There you go. Just kind of like that. All right, and I'm moving really, really fast. I want to talk while I'm doing this and tell you that this is a video, right? So what does that mean? That means you could watch me do the whole thing and then go back later on and rewatch the video and paint along with it, or do your own version of what I'm doing. Also, it could mean that you are watching it and you will be going along with me the first time around, and you can pause it and go back and rewind, or pause it and also work at your own pace and play the video when you're ready to move on to the next step. So I am making it kind of messy. I'm also going to be using my brush to make these round brush strokes going around my sun. I'm not going crazy. Nothing crazy. We're going to go to about here. And it's only going to take maybe 3 minutes tops. I'm going to just finish my outline. Just like that. And then I'm going to fill it in. Rounded brush strokes. That helps give our sun, we're going to paint over most of it anyway, but it's going to help give our sun the radiating kind of feeling that we want, because it's going to be a really bright orange glowing orb, I guess. So I chose T-Rex obviously because he is, like, you know, the most well-known dino in the dino world, although there are many, and I'm 100% sure that you know many, names of dinos. When I was a kid, I used to look at books and want to be a scientist that would, you know, study, I don't even know, I'm not going to say the word because I don't want to say the wrong word, but a person that studies dinosaurs and dinosaur bones. Obviously archaeologists, but there's something that's very specific to dinos, and can't think of it right now, but maybe it'll come to me later. So that's it. See how it's messy? It's messy. Messy is fine. All right, in order to give our sky the feeling of the sunset, right? So when the sun sets, like you go to the beach or your backyard or whatever, and you're looking out and the sun is going down, it's glowing where the light is mostly around where the sun is, and then the top of the sky, the higher up you look, it starts to get shaded and a little bit darker. So we are going to be using the darker green, same brush. I'm not washing my brush. And I'm just going to mix it with this light green on the top part, right? And it's going to look scratchy. It's not going to be completely dark green because it's mixing with the light green, right? So it's going to have a shadowy effect to it. And again, because it's the sky, it's not going to be a perfect look. And then I'm going to shade it down. Now what that means is I'm going to kind of stick to my idea of the rounded brush strokes, right? And the further away I get from the top of the painting, the further away I get from up here, meaning the further I have to go down onto the canvas to the bottom of the canvas, the more the dark green is going to fade away. Okay, so we only want this top to look like it's something. If you feel like it's a little bit dry, like you may have like a spot where you feel like the paint is like sticky because it's almost completely dry, you could go back and get a little light green, and that'll help you with your blending. That'll just kind of wet the paint again, and that'll help you with your blending. And that's all you got to do. So don't get caught up in rubbing your brush or anything like that. Just go back and get a little bit of green to kind of re-wet. And I'm also doing that same like rounded brush stroke, messy rounded brush stroke. I'm going really fast because I'm not trying to be so perfect. You see how it's messy? It's supposed to look like that. It's supposed to give you that radiating feeling, right? And then as we get further down here, the dark part up here is going to start getting lighter and lighter, and it's going to be more of that green right there. So if I want to like add a little more dark green, I can. I'm just doing this for the sake of the painting because you may want to do something different, because as I've experienced, like I told you, I find it absolutely fascinating that people are all painting the same painting and they are all able to come up with a different version of the same thing. I think that's really great, and that just goes to show that everybody has a style and they go with their style, which is really fabulous, right? You can't get away from your style, no matter what your age is, no matter what you decide to wear, whatever you decide to do, you can't get away from it. So this is only going to take a few minutes, right? The biggest parts of the painting are the sky and the sun. So we are spending some time on the sky and the sun. All right, now that I am here, right, it looks great. I'm sure yours looks great too. Again, I'm just going to tap off the excess paint from my brush, but I'm not going to wash my brush. What I am going to do is instead get some white. And here, where the green is meeting the white of the canvas, I am going to paint it white. Now, what's going to happen is, you see, I have green on my brush, so it's just going to blend in with the white, and it's going to look like a lighter green. That's fine. And again, I'm just going to use the white. I'm not going to mix any more green. So whatever green is left on your brush is all there is. And I'm just going to fill in this last little area of canvas with white. So right here where we start painting really quickly is going to be like a very light green. You could barely even see it on my canvas. I have daylight. I'm working with daylight, so it's kind of bright. It's making everything very vivid to the point where you may not be able to see this so well, but this is coming out green on the bottom, a minty green. And then the further down I'm going here, it's just getting more white. And it doesn't matter because we're going to be painting most of this area right here anyway with our landscape and our volcano, and our T-Rex is going to be here. So like I said, no big deal. We're not going to go crazy. We're just going to cover it with a very thin coat of paint and our rounded brush strokes, and that's that. So once we've finished with this, we're pretty much done with the green until we start working on our T-Rex. So right now, what I'm going to do is wash my brush. I'm going to take my cup, I'm going to get really in there and tap it on the bottom of my cup to get all the green out of all the bristles. Okay, and then dry it on a paper towel. Make sure all the paint is out of your brush. And we're going to work on our sun. And again, we're going to work really quickly. I'm using solid yellow. I'm going to make the whole thing solid yellow. I'm going to be very conscious of the outlines. So I'm just going to take my time and I'm going to go around the outline of the sun first. And the reason why I do this, I always use this outline method, which is just take your time and do the outline. Then you can spend your time being fun and messy on the inside. And it just takes an extra couple seconds. And it doesn't have to be perfect on the inside. It just has to be along the line on the outside. So you can make some mistakes. The yellow is lighter than the green, so you're not really going to see it if you do get it on the green. Look how good that looks already. All right. Now I'm going to finish coloring in my sun. I'm just going to color the whole thing in. And because it's just one color, we can go pretty quickly. I tell you quickly because I like when the paint remains a little bit wet for the next step. And so I want this to stay a little bit wet also because we are going to do some orange over it in the same fashion that we did the dark green over the light green. We're going to do orange over the yellow. And also, you see how I have these glops of paint because I'm working quickly? You don't want any glops of paint. We don't want any glops. You want it to be nice and smooth. So take your time and rub it in. If you have really a lot of paint on your canvas, you can always use a paper towel and get it off. So I'm just going to make sure it's completely covered. I'm going to do like a little rounded brush stroke so that it has like a very round spirally look. Okay. And like I said, you can always pause this. I'm going to now not wash my brush. Not necessary. And we're going to make this glowing sunset sun. You're going to take some orange. And we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're just going to very quickly make a round brush stroke. Kind of go, this doesn't even have to be as perfect as the yellow because we're going to rub this in a little bit. And this also depends on how dark you want your sun to be. I do want it to be a little bit on the dark side, but not too much. So here, so we have wet orange paint on top of wet yellow paint, right? So I'm going to now blend that orange into my yellow. So where the orange and the yellow meet, I'm just going to kind of rub it in. I'm using that same giant round brush stroke. Go nice and slow. You can stop and do smaller brush strokes if you like. Whatever makes you feel comfortable when you're painting. Just like that. So very little orange ultimately, right? And you're just going to make this glowing sun. Okay, once you have that step finished, we are going to go back to yellow. Not wash our brush out because there's a tiny bit of orange on there. Now we're going to get more yellow and we're going to kind of fill it in. And you're still going to have an orange sun, but it's going to get lighter because now it's mostly yellow on your brush and a little bit of orange. So we just want to use that yellow to come to the center. I'm using a very big round brush stroke. And I don't want any gloppiness. I want to try to make it so that it's nice and smooth. And that's it. See, it's supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be rounded, spiraled, blendy, darker on the outside, more yellow on the inside, but not exactly yellow. So take your time with that. And when you're ready, we'll move on to the next step, okay? So for me, the next step is the landscape. All right, so I'm going to now wash my brush one more time. I'm going to tap it down on the bottom of the cup. I'm going to dry it out on my paper towel. And I'm going to work on my landscape. So because the sun is setting, and you know what this looks like too, when you're outside and the sun is setting and maybe there's like trees in the background or somebody's house further far and the sun is setting behind it, everything seems in shadow, like very dark shadow. And that's what we're going to create here. We're going to create a landscape that is in shadow because the sun is setting and it's far away, even though it's giant. Sometimes, again, I don't know if you notice these things, but sometimes it depends where you are on vacation and the south or the north. Sometimes the sun seems very big and sometimes it seems more far away. Sometimes, not maybe not this big. Sometimes the moon, same thing, big, small. It just depends on how the world is turning and where we are in the solar system at the moment. So right now we are very close to the sun and we are going to be painting our landscape with shadow. Okay, so the big brush, again, that wide brush, I am just going to do a faraway landscape. So it's going to be like jaggy. I'm making it up as I go along. I'm not doing too much, maybe like an inch or two off the bottom. Not too crazy. Okay, we want some mountains. We want some land in the background. And then in our foreground is going to be like some kind of area where our palm tree is going to grow out of. So I've made mistakes right now and I just went with it. I'm also going to add a volcano. So a volcano is almost like a triangle, right? Except it has like a flat top to it, like that. And then it goes down and it's a little jaggy because it's also a mountain, right? It's a mountain, it's a peak most of the time. It could be a high peak or a lower peak. And you can make it however you want. That's what mine's going to look like in this painting, although I have done different ones. I'm going to make it look like this in this painting. And then it's easy to fix. You could just go over it with black, right? I'm going to now just color this in. This bottom part right here, I'm going to color the whole thing in black, solid black. Okay, it doesn't have to be any kind of brush stroke. It doesn't have to be anything but smooth. You don't want the heavy, shiny rivers of paint going in there. Okay, so I'm going to just go across the whole landscape and fill it in. You think black is easy, but it's really not easy because there's white underneath it and it does kind of come through a little bit. But that's okay because our T-Rex is going to be there. We have to do some lava. It's going to be fine. So our summer theme this year at the library for the summer of this 2026 is going to be, there's going to be a lot of dino related stuff. So if you're into dinosaurs, this is your summer. There's a lot of crafts, of course, a lot of reading and fun things, other types of things to go to at the library, but dinosaurs are going to be around. So you should go check out your newsletter. They're always around every year anyway, because everybody really loves dinosaurs. They're fascinating. So I'm getting rid of all of the areas that I have like a really thick, shiny glop of paint. Okay, that's that. I'm going to leave that the way it is. Next, we're going to be working on our palm tree. I'm going to show you, here's my landscape, right? Very kind of low to the ground. I made a giant volcano there. And now we're going to work on our palm tree, okay? So this is an accent, and again, it's going to be in shadow because the sun is far away. But if you look at palm trees, they are segmented because they grow a little bit every year, and that's what this is going to be. We're going to make brush strokes that are about an inch each, and then we're going to make a few big branches with some downward leaves. Okay, so I'm going to just take a peek here and see where my dinosaur is going to end up being, right? He's going to be right about there. So I want to make sure that my palm tree is going to be above where his head is. So I'm going to make a curvy palm tree. Very easy. You're going to take your wide brush, but you're going to use just the side of the brush, not the wide. You're going to use the side, like thin, like this. And you're just going to make segments going in the direction of your tree trunk, the one that you want to have for your palm tree. Okay, so I'm just going to make it a little curvy and tall. Mine look like little dashes, so I'm going to just go fill them in. Make sure they're touching. They're going to be more narrow on top, wider on the bottom, touching like that. Okay, almost like you're making a skeleton and they're bones. Okay, very nice. Make it a little wider at the bottom because it is kind of growing out of the ground. Okay, and up here is going to be where our branches are. All right, so I'm not going to make too many branches because we have to do a lot of leaves. So I am going to do a couple. I'm going to do one branch here. I'm still using the side of my brush. I'm going to make a larger branch coming that way. It looks like it's reaching and coming over. And then on this side, I'm going to have one, because I don't want it to go off the painting. I'm just going to bend it. And then I'm also going to have a couple coming up this way. So I'm going to end up with 5 major palm fronds. Okay, and you see how they're all just kind of ending right there? That's fine because we're going to be making the leaves now. All right, I am going to now put this into retirement and move on to my skinny brush. Okay, and I'm going to take my skinny brush and I'm going to make the leaves. So leaves are long and thin on a palm frond, but they also droop, right? Because it's gravity, they droop down. And with your skinny brush and a little bit of black paint, we're going to do a bunch of downward lines, right? And when I say downward lines, I mean I'll do a couple here, like almost like a little flick, right? So it's pointing on the bottom and heavier at the top. Oh, I got some paint on my arm. I got to be very careful, and that means you do too. So I'm going to actually hold my arm. That's one of my tricks. Yeah. So I'm just going to continue with some downward, and they're growing leaves. So they could grow they don't all have to grow directly down. They can grow long or short. Okay. And at the ends, we also want a couple coming down, right? It's just like a very short flick of your brush. They're going to be all different lengths, which is okay. I'm going to do the same thing up here. I'm going to hold my arm, and I'm just going to do a bunch of long ones. And they're all going to go down. And when I get to the end, they're going to be shorter, right? Because the biggest ones here are the ones that have been growing the longest. And the shorter ones are the ones that are just coming out of the palm frond. They're just starting to grow. Okay, so don't make it too skeleton-y. You could fill them in. And then here, they're not going to grow sideways, right? They are still going to grow down. So they're coming out and they're going down. Okay, same thing here. They're coming out and they're going down. They have to come out a little bit before they bend. Right? So I think that's enough for the downs, but I also want to give the illusion that they're growing out of that center stem. So we are going to do a couple little like bumps, like because we have leaves growing out of both sides, right? So we want to make it look like they're coming out of both sides, and we need to make it look like that's happening. So we want to just kind of show that there's like some kind of leaf. And I'm literally just making like a bump, right? Maybe a little extra leaf if I see a spot that needs a leaf, but that's all I'm doing. I'm just making it kind of bumpy and feathery, and that's totally fine. And there's really, you can't make a mistake with this. You can't. It's just going to be all the same. Okay, same thing here because they are coming down. This is the hardest part because it takes the longest. Okay, see how it's kind of falling? We want it to look like it's falling. We want those palm fronds to come down and look droopy and be like bleh at the end of the day. Okay? Maybe I'll make an extra little one here. Okay, that's that. All right, while we have I'll wait. So I'm gonna do some palm trees, but I'll wait till our T-Rex is down and then we could put a couple palm trees around his legs. I'm gonna put this in the water now because now we're ready for the main event, which is our buddy. We need to give him a name. I'm gonna lay him right here, okay? So what you have to do is turn him upside down. I'm gonna move this over. You have to turn them upside down like this, and then you're going to use your glue. And we are not going to put a lot of glue. Please don't. We don't need a lot of glue because if you put too much glue, he's going to get all wavy and lumpy, and also the glue might squeeze out, and you don't want that either. What we're going to do is use our glue. Got a glue string. Does this open? Yes. Okay. And we're just going to make a zigzag very, very light. Everybody likes to use a lot of glue. I know, it's fun, but we don't want that for our T-Rex. Let's give him a name. I keep saying T-Rex. I'm going to call him Tony. I'm not going to name him Barney. That's a little obvious. And you're going to get all the important parts, like the points of his claws, around where his eyes, nose, teeth are, but just a scratchy scratch. And it's fast too. You don't have to worry about too much. Just getting it around in the good spots where you know you have to worry about it laying down flat. Okay? Look, just like that. Except this is glue and not paint. Now I'm going to turn him over, bring my painting back, and then I'm going to lay him down. You want his feet to be on the landscape, on the black, okay? You want his feet to be there. And then what you could do is just take one of your paintbrushes, it doesn't matter which, and then just turn it upside down. And you're just going to tap down all the edges that are curling up, because, you know, this is where the curling happens, right? When the paper is wet. And you're going to make sure his toes are down. I got a little glue here. I'm just going to leave it because glue is going to dry clear. Glue is okay. Not the enemy in the end. All right, I'm going to get his mouth down and all his teeth. I'm going to just do up by his eyes, around his nose. There you go. Very good. Very happy with how he's laying down nicely. If it gets crazy and you get a little bit of paint, like here, if you get a little bit of paint on the front, don't worry about it. We're going to paint him, and then if you still have areas you want to make black, we can always use the black paint and go back over it. Okay, so in order to make him go from like this cartoonish flat dino to something that has like life and dimension and a little bit of attitude, we're going to be painting with our skinny brush, which I'm going to clean off right now. Okay, and white. I'm going to bring it over here so you could see my original and what we're going to do. And it's not going to be the same. It's not, when I paint things, they're never actually the same. I am going to use my skinny brush, my pointy brush, and a tiny bit of white, and I'm going to do like a very light outline around, just to give it, Tony, a little bit of a pop, right? So here's his arms. His one arm, I'm going to make him come up to here because he does have an arm, and he is, one's in shadow back here, and one is kind of sticking out over here. His thigh, his knees, he's got a couple knees. I'm going to make little knee marks. I'm going to make his toes kind of stand out a little bit. So this is just the beginning of the touch-ups. He has like a little claw in the back of his foot, because if we don't do this, we're not going to see what we want to do. We just need to do a little bit of an outline. And I'm not going all the way up to the edge or anything like that. So he has like a little head here. He's got like his eyes, eyebrows, his nose. He has a big mouth. I'm just going to do a big mouth. Here's his jaw. I'm going to come up a little bit for his jaw. Just like that. Okay. Now his tail, that's another story. I've seen people do like dots because he's like a reptile. I've also appreciated when people did like the underneath of the tail, and they did a couple lines like a reptile would have. His thigh is going to come up really back here. More outline. I skipped his foot. Let me finish this foot. So his toenails I'm making white so that they're toenails, right? They're not claws. They're really claws. And there you go. Really more of an outline than anything else. And even though it goes on like a little bit gray, it dries much whiter than it seems. Okay, so far so good. I'm going to do a little bit on his hands. I'm going to get a couple, make his claws over here white also. Gets a little manicure and a pedicure. Just like that. I'm going to just outline them a little bit so it stands out a little better. Because the white kind of creates like a reverse shadow. And here's some more little reptile dots, or you could make like little V's if you want. Little areas so that he has like a feeling that he's got some scaling going on. Here's his jawline. His teeth. Very sharp and white, because he's a meat eater. There you go. He's had a little tooth whitening along with his mani-pedi. He's got a nose. Right there. Now for his eye. I'm going to do an eye, just like a regular eye shape, okay? Right here, I'm going to do an eye. So a top of an eye and a bottom of an eye like that. And then I'm going to go back in later and I'm going to add some color to it, okay? But in the meantime, I want to see what else I want to do. So maybe I'll give him a little bit of a chest, right? Just some lines to kind of give him a hint of like a chest area. Right, like that. His body is going to kind of come this way. You may have like a little more scaling over here. There you go. Come on, Tony. Make sure the bottom of his feet are done. That's great. I think he came out really great. And you can't really make a mistake, to tell you the truth. You just can't. You can always add anything and it'll always look good. All right, so what we can do is work on his eye. So I am going to switch my colors because we have in our plates, we have green and yellow and orange and black, right? Which is our main color palette for this. So if I wanted to give him green eyes or yellow eyes or orange eyes, we could definitely do that. So I am going to make the iris of his eye yellow, right? So that's the part on your eye that's color. So he's got a yellow eye. I'm going to use the light green and I'm going to make that the white part of your eye. I'm going to make that a green for him. Okay, and I'm even going to use that green to kind of outline the top part of his eye. I can make him mad, I can make him happy, I could do anything. Okay, underneath the white, I am going to give him like a little bit of a white at the bottom so that his eye pops out, stands out a little bit. I mean, you could even make it like a female, you know, like with big lashes or something. And then I'm going to take black and I'm going to make a line in the eye to give him like a reptile eye. There you go. So he looks a little bit mad. If you want to cover any areas up or outline the eye, you could always use black to just fix it up a little bit. And that's all you need. That's it. So once we're done with our dino, we can go back and do some of the other things that we were going to do before. So I'm going to add a couple palm trees, very tiny amount of black on the brush. And I'm just going to do I did one on that side over there. I think I'm going to do it over here. So a very tiny tree trunk with a few weird branches just like that, maybe 4 or 5. I'm running out of paint. Here's a little palm tree right there. I can add another one over here. And again, I'm going to do 5. And then over here is a nice sky. I'm going to add a couple little pterodactyls flying around. I usually just make V's because they're far away with a little bump for a body. They're very far. If you want to add more palm trees, you could do that. You could also do, if you really wanted, you could do, since it's like maybe an apocalypse, you could do a asteroid in the sky. I don't know. It's up to you what you want to do. You can make it like, you know, some really apocalyptic dark something. It's up to you. So the last part of our dinosaur portrait is going to be our volcano. So with our wide brush. We're going to go back to the wide brush, and I'm going to use, you could use yellow, you could use orange. I'm going to use orange today because I used yellow in my other two. We're going to make some bubbling lava. And when I say bubbling, I mean we're not painting, no brush strokes. We're just going to make a bunch of dots and make it kind of pool around the top because it's dribbling down the side. And this is going to be nice and thick because we really want it to be orange when it's dry. And it's going to get wider as it comes down too because it's also pooling down here. See how it's kind of coming down the side of the mountain? All I'm doing is tapping, nice and thick orange paint. I am not doing any brush strokes because if I do brush strokes, then the black is going to come through, and I don't want the black to come through. I want the orange to be very bright and vivid. Okay, so there you go. That's my lava pouring out. And last, not only is the lava pouring out of our volcano, but there's also smoke coming up. So wash that brush one last time. Let's get some white paint and let's do the same thing. Let's just make some white going into the sky. White clouds are kind of amorphous and they're not really any shape. They are, however, kind of dissipating, and as they get higher, they kind of go away. That's that. You can make it cloudy. Again, don't rub too much because you don't want to lose the white. You want the white to kind of stay. You know, it's all about details in the end. We start with the big elements and then we get finer and finer in the details. Another interesting detail, you don't have to do this either. I'm doing this because I have it here, but you don't have to do this, is I'm going to take the skinny brush. Okay. I'm going to take some black and I'm going to extend, because really a T-Rex has a tail like this, but I can extend it a little bit and just make like a big curl. And then he's got like a whip tail. Just like that. And go back with a little bit of white like we did with the rest of him and just do a very slight outline to give it a little accent. Optional. All of these things are optional. So I hope you enjoyed this very much as I did. I do love doing all these projects with you. I can hear my dog. He's telling me I have to stop now. But yeah, thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you got really creative with the details, and I would love to see what you do. Let me, you could send some pictures to your librarian. I'd like to see what everybody's looks like. Don't forget to name your T-Rex. Have an awesome, awesome summer, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you again. Okay, so how did you do? Did you create an amazing painting with lots of vivid color? Did you make it into an apocalypse or just a prehistoric sunset? You know, how creative did you get? I'm sure everybody's work is amazing, and thank you for joining me. My name is Lisa. I have a website at icreateprograms.com and an Instagram at createprograms. So I will see you in the next video. Thank you.